Hey there.
Hi.
I'll be honest, so many people are in Dublin. I don't know if we're having a meeting today or not, but it wasn't canceled, so I'm here and I see you're here.
Okay. I think we should have the meeting today because Michael wrote that he cannot join today. So asked if someone want to do the meeting or just move to another week. But I think we have the meeting. We can wait 5 minutes and see. And
You think we should have or not have?
we should have it.
Should
But
have it. Thank you.
yes,
Okay.
but
All
if
right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can find our meeting notes links. Let's see. That looks like a meeting notes link. We are being recorded. Let's see here. All right. You know what? You know what's strange? We haven't had any issues within this group, but usually in the meeting notes, I like to link to the code of conduct. So I'm going to add that right now. Meeting notes, there's the antitrust. And right after that, I'm going to, let's see here, all OpenSSF meetings must comply with the code of conduct. I will add the link. Let's see, so the heading, I should say. All right, and that will give us time to wait to see if there anyone else will join us. Okay. 9:07. No attendees. Well, that's all right. And today is the 14th.
the raccoon is very nice.
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, a real background or not?
All right. Let me post the link to the meeting notes that we usually have. All right. Okay. If nothing else, the one main item that I think that we really should be talking about today is setting up discussions with with LFX, etc., regarding next steps for a metrics dashboard. Okay, and really, this step one is identifying requirements. Okay. Luigi, I will just type your name in here.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, I don't know if was anyone designated as a lead? I mean, if not, I can
I
pick that
mean,
up. Somebody else wants
maybe
to
if you
pick.
want to be the lead of this meeting, you can. Definitely. You are good enough.
Oh, hey, that's probably the best I'm going to hear today. You're good enough. All right. Well,
No. You are very good. I mean, my good
well,
enough
thank
means
you.
that you are very, very good. No, sorry.
I'm thinking more in terms of just making sure everybody can get the turn. So if you don't mind though, if not, for nothing else, I'm the one who sent out an email was it last week, proposing this. So for those of you, so let's just go ahead and get started. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes. I mean, then I have some updates about the security insight, but they are just recurring updates. So
okay, update. All right, but let's. So I'll just add you. Okay, so you may have seen my email, but basically, we have this prototype metrics.openssf.org, but it runs. Hooray for that! But we really need to go further than that. We really want to, get more information, get it easier to use, and all that good stuff. There's been some interest within the LFX security platform. I know there's been some other interests. Avishek actually expressed interest as well over at Google. And so I wanted to basically propose that we set up a gathering. It could be this, but maybe we need to set up a different meeting time because I think some people had some scheduling problems. So I propose, hey, let's have just a meeting just on the, okay, what needs to be done for next steps to go on and go for there. Is everybody? But I didn't want to pull ahead of the group, so I just want to get a sense from the group. Does that seem like a reasonable thing? We can set up a doodle poll, and those who are interested, you can declare I'm interested, and then we'll have a meeting, and then I think that next step is basically trying to work up requirements and next steps to move forward from where we are now.
For the new metric dashboard / website to show information, right?
That's right. That's right. A dashboard, basically.
Okay.
Create a new meeting doodle poll. Okay. The purpose of the meeting would be to ID requirements and next steps to implement a better metrics dashboard.
Yes, I mean, if I can say something about this, we have 1 years and a half, I think, ago, already implemented a sort of, well, technically a metric dashboard using Grafana to show some information about the open source
Right.
project, and we have deprecated it. Probably I cannot call it a postmortem, but it will be important probably understand why we have shut down that dashboard and understand which information we need to add in this dashboard without having a scorecard duplicate. I mean, scorecard is an evaluation tool and it is definitely good. And probably we want to have all the information that are in the scorecard, but probably a dashboard is something that is more human friendly. So something that people want to read in some way, or using a dashboard or using API, but definitely there is a human that use the product. And so probably we want to have more information related to security for sure, or to safety check. I don't know how to define it, on a sort of healthy check of the project. So not just security, sometimes can be the list of maintainer, the URL of the project, the URL to the documentation. That is important. We have seen that Log4j was well documented in the, I mean, was the feature was in the documentation, but no one knows this. So I think that if we want to start with a dashboard, I think it is a good idea. I mean, because people, especially in small team or small company, want to have a human-friendly tool. But we need to be sure that we don't deprecate it after 1 year. It's very common that we create a lot of projects with source from different places, and probably at least inside OpenSSF, we should be better to communicate to be sure that project can coexist and can give a value. Because I mean, from my perspective, the previous dashboard was a nice idea, but for some reason, we decided to deprecate it. It was difficult to maintain it. It was difficult to find the right information sometimes, or to give the right evaluation to the project. So, but it is my personal opinion, just probably from a user perspective, not from a maintainer.
Okay. All right. So I mean, I have the I can set up a doodle poll and kind of get that going. And then those who are interested can gather. Maybe we need to write a little requirements doc to try to agree on what those requirements are based on what's already been done. Hey, what's missing? And maybe and that should clarify things quite a bit, and having some prototypes to look at. And LFX security already exists. I think part of the issue was, frankly, there was a desire for something that provided more data but required more resources to get. Things like, let's do deeper static analysis of the software or recompile the software to see if we can regenerate it, not just run scorecards on it.
Yes, and I have a question for you now. This kind of project is very big, like a lot of projects that we have at the moment. And I don't know, it's just an open question now. About Linux Foundation want to open position to hire people to work on project or not? Because probably this can, okay, because this can
we can do that. Absolutely. Now, I'm saying that we can. That doesn't always mean that we do. I will say we tend not to. We often tend to either, depend on companies to hire the right people and use them, or we hire consultants. But do we hire employees? Absolutely. And in fact, Alpha Omega is working right now to hire folks who will be actual LF employees and will work full time on that work.
Okay.
So can we do it? Yes. The previous step, however, is what do you want to do, and what's the best way to accomplish it? Because I'll tell you one trouble with hiring already, and I realize I'm telling something that everyone here already knows, is it's actually challenging to get people who are good and have the right expertise. It's challenging, and LF is not immune to that problem. So, but really, step one is what are you trying to accomplish?
Okay.
And yes, hiring is absolutely one of the techniques if that turns out the best way to get the job done. All right. Thoughts, comments? Okay. All right. All right. That was it for mine. Luigi, your problem.
Okay, security insights, some updates. I need to open the issue well written for the scorecard. At the moment, it is just a feature request or a feature test. So probably a draft pull request in the future to see if we can implement, if the scorecard team can implement or can integrate the security insights inside the scorecard evaluation or analysis. We can, the team probably can define how to use the data that are contained in the security insights, because I can understand if they decide that they cannot trust to everything, it is okay, but there are some data that are better than the scan that they do now. In addition, in the last week, there was a thread on Slack about some feedback received by the community regarding automatic pull requests to fix bug, a security issue, or automatic issue to communicate a security issue. I am not sure at the moment, but the point is that the community, some maintainers have objected the pull request or the automatic report, but other one didn't so happy about receiving automatic pull requests for a lot of reasons. Maybe the content of the report was not so good, or the vulnerability was an acceptable risk for the project, and so on and so on. So in the thread, I have the link to the thread. Give 1 second so I can give more context to that. We can add to the.
I can add the context because I was responsible for that work. So hi, this is Munawar. Yeah, so I'm the CEO of OpenRefactory. We're working with Alpha Omega project, specifically Michael Scovetta Basically, our goal is so our tool, Intelligent Code Repair or ICR, it detects bugs with very low false positives, so very high concentration of true positives. So we have an ambitious project where we want to scan the entire PyPI repository, and basically then the goal would be to like communicate with the maintainers and have like harden the security of the projects and also fix vulnerabilities and so on. So as part of that experimentation, we have had a website that was launched earlier. It is in pypi.openrefactory.com, so in that website right now, we are automatically like scanning about 200 between 200 and 250. I don't exactly have the number, but yeah, some amount of the top PyPI projects, and basically identifying bugs in that. So one of the things that we found out is, as I mentioned, we found only important bugs, and so in projects, for example, in Ansible, if you run like any other tool, like we ran SonarQube and others and so on, you would get in close to 3,000, 4,000 bug reports in that. And that's, you can't work with that. You can't do anything because many of them are false positive and won't fix issues and so on. We identified only like 20 something bugs, and some of them are, so all of them are high or medium severity level. So what we did as an experimentation part, the next step, how do we communicate with the maintainers? We picked a small subset of that. I think 24 of those pull requests that were identified across projects, we submitted manual pull requests. There was nothing automated that was done, but it was done in an A/B testing manner, as in some of them were done in a more structured way. It appeared that it is coming from some machine, but then the other one, there are some other messages that were written in a first person basis, so that it looked like it is coming from a human being. So the current status is now that 10 of them have been accepted out of those 24. 8, we don't have any answer, and 6 of them have not been accepted. So there was that. In one case, there was a violation of the protocol, as in like the person who was doing this, he actually created a message that was unintended that irked some maintainers. But basically, what we found out is, number one, that the content of the bugs are important. We didn't find, even though our test is small, we didn't find that the messaging difference did not create any. So out of the 10 bugs that were accepted, 6 were from the more human-like message communication, 4 were about the accepted from the automated message, and so on. So there was no difference in terms of the messaging that created any difference in the acceptance rate. It was the quality of the bug, because people found that it's important. That's why they were accepted and being merged in the code base. What we also found is that the same bug, so for example, we were looking for cross-site request forgery protection being disabled. So this was accepted by 4 different projects. 1, it is pending right now, and then 1 rejected that because it was not important so it was not giving a valid, so they didn't have an attack surface for that particular attack or that particular problem. So what we understood is that probably, I mean, even though I've been building automated tool for like over 15 years, I don't even subscribe to that idea yet of submitting automated pull requests. But I mean, you and I, we are planning to have a chat about it later today. But if we find high value bugs, people are going to get notice, are going to notice it and accept these things. So it's important that before generating or before going to that step as an automated pull request, we need to first of all improve the quality of the scans. So that's a critical piece of the puzzle as well. But if the bugs are good, or if the bugs are important issues, then I mean, we found that with very little effort, about 40% of our fixes that we submitted got accepted, and within a week. So that's pretty encouraging. We are also looking into other mechanisms. So Michael suggested that we also look into, so this was more about going through communicating through pull requests. Another way would be to communicate through security advisories. So that's what we are experimenting now, as in, and we are going to produce that particular report. This is happening with the Alpha Omega folks. So sorry this was long, but this is kind of the context of that particular case study that's going on.
So I'm raising my hand, I guess, on myself. So I want to quickly respond. I do think that Jonathan L. has had successes submitting automated pull requests, but to be fair, he's using a really different approach. So instead of scanning software and looking at a particular program and looking for the vulnerabilities, he's looking for like one vulnerability in some software that is widely vendored, and
Yes.
then it's basically it's not a highly abstract. It's very specific. You know, this particular either program or significant snippet is being reused the same way over and over in a bad way. It's the wrong thing to do. So it's not a scan of a whole program and find the problems. It's, you know, I found a particular pattern, and then I'm using, you know, I think he generally uses code, CodeQL. He's basically scanning for very, very specific code patterns over and over again, which is a different, so he's being successful at it, but doing something rather different. So
you're absolutely right. Yes. And I mentioned that in the blog post that I wrote as well, that his is more about patch dissemination. Like there is a specific vulnerability and the patch has been created and he's just disseminating that, even though that his patch is based, and that also depends on the patch quality. So he has actually shared his data set with me. So for a case like that he had done before with HTTP, with Maven, library loading with HTTP instead of HTTPS, he had big success, like 40% of his pull requests were accepted. But in the current ones that he was doing, because of the quality of the patch was not necessarily that good, he had actually less than 1% of the pull requests that have been accepted. So his recent record on that is not necessarily good, but yeah, his focus is on patch dissemination, but it also is dependent on the patch itself, because he was making some assumptions, generalization assumptions that does not hold for software really. So his patch was a little bit too aggressive, and that's why in the recent cases it was not very much accepted by the community. But previously he had like as high as 40% acceptances as well. So we are very different because we are more a general purpose bug thing. So spot on that observation.
Okay, I'm not terribly surprised that depending on your approach, you get different answers. I'm sorry, who's next?
I would like to add a comment about this topic. In the past, we have seen, I mean, the author deleted the tweet, but there is my reply. But it's not the first open source maintainer or security guy that say this. It's very common that sometimes you receive security reports that are not so interesting for your project, because maybe some vulnerabilities are accepted by design or are not so critical for your own project, if we consider a threat model especially. And usually I suggest to maintainers to add a sort of auto scope and scope list in the security policies, not because it is a very good idea, honestly. I prefer to receive every kind of report, but if you need to maintain a project, you want to reduce the noise of the email that you receive. So it's normal and human, I think. And for this reason, the security insights already support this. If Alpha and Omega help the maintainer of the project to add a similar YAML file where there are all this information, for example, if you accept or not pull request, if you accept or not vulnerability reports, and so and so, we have a file that we can scan, and in the future we can use that file to decide how to report a particular security report or open a pull request to automate a fix. Sometimes not all the fixes are accepted because maybe they don't respect some standard or similar. So it's difficult, but at the same time, we see that some information about how to report the issue are important for the security community. Yes, we can still continue to send an email to a contact if we are lucky and we find the security.md, or just a link to a policy, or open a issue where we say, hey, we have found the security issue. Can we have a contact to send you it privately? So, but this approach cannot scale. And in a system where we have the packet manager, the repo of the project, and so, maybe we want to have something that can work better. So for my perspective, of course, I can be biased. Alpha Omega could spread this standard. So suggest to the maintainer to implement a similar YAML file, that also the basic one. So with just the minimum information, the required one, that are 20 lines, I think. And in that way, we can have a file that we can use in the future. So we can just scan the repo. If there is this file, we can read it. And according to it, we can decide how to proceed. So we can also automate some report. Because, I mean, okay, when you are talking with maintainers and developers and just people that do open source in the free time, you want to have a human approach, definitely. But at the same time, I can understand if someone wants to help and want to scale, because also Jonathan had done a very great work, but he automated part of the work. So I don't think that we can, I mean, it's like fuzzing. Not all open source projects accept fuzzing report because they are maybe just a generic denial of service, but if research is very good, it can find a way to escalate a fuzzing issue. But the question is, we want to spend time to find the right exploit, or we want just to fix the bug because it is a risk? And from that perspective, a similar standard specification can help. The point is that the main friction that we have, or the main challenge that we have, and it is quite big, honestly, it is convince people to adopt it, and maybe not having a lot of similar file like right now. Now we have a lot of good projects, but we are not able to converge on a single one.
It looks like we're in something else. Oh, wait a minute. Munawar, are you on the next topic, this virtual summit, or are you on the previous topic?
On the previous one, just one final note. So, the conversation that I've been having with Michael is that there is also politics involved, as in like whom are people getting requests. So we only, like, out of the 24 pull requests that we submitted, there were only 2 cases where people didn't like. They thought that it was coming from a so it was sent from an OpenRefactory handle, so it was coming from a company and it was not necessarily good, and so on. So one of the things that that I think, and Michael kind of agrees to that, is if OpenSSF is sending those, or Alpha Omega is sending those things, there is a better reception, perhaps, just because of the perception of that it is not coming from a corporation or that kind of entity, but it is coming from a research perspective. So that there is that politics of human acceptance that is also affiliated with that. But anyway, so that I rest my case. Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay. I think we've run out on this topic. Now, Munwar, are you also the one who raised this virtual summit idea?
Michael raised this. I'm just the executor. Myself, Alex, and Ishel, three of us just volunteered to execute. But it's originally Michael Scoveta's idea that was shared in the general channel.
Okay. All right, but Michael managed to sneak away today. He's in Dublin. So if you wouldn't mind just giving the quick update here.
Okay.
Now you're conceiving of this as an OpenSSF thing, right? Is that, or is this an external thing? This is an OpenSSF thing, external thing. What's
this was proposed by Michael. We are still we just had 2 meetings. So Alex is here. Alex can feed me in as needed. We have had 2 meetings so far. So 3 of us volunteered, and so we have had 2 meetings. We right now the plan is to create a steering committee, which basically means communicating with you and getting some people involved so that we can take some decisions. The decisions that are needed are, number 1, the scope. Who are the, I mean, we can't, because it's a virtual event, even though Zoom allows us, but we can't have 300 people there because there's no communication, effective communication that happens. So if we narrow the scope, let's say just have 40 people, 50 people, who will be those people? What will be those projects? So we have been, or I've been working with the identifying, with Amir and that particular group to get the list of the projects based on different languages, the top project based on different languages, and possibly using that list. There are other ideas as in different tiers, tier 0 to tier 3. There are also ideas of getting projects from different verticals, like payment industry or healthcare industry, fintechs, and each of them. So have represented. We can't obviously have all of them in one meeting. So one of the things that we were thinking is, and that was also part of the original idea, is to make this thing a periodic thing, like having this thing every quarter, involve a small subset, a narrow scope, and then focus on that. So that's one of the things, the scope. The second thing is we still need to decide on the format. We discussed on having a workshop format, which requires maybe 4 hours or so of involvement in a specific day, and we break that into specific sessions and so on. There could also be a panel. It could also be just a talk or a presentation from some noteworthy figures, and then have question answers around that. So that's something that we also want to. There's also the budget, the funding, and so on. So it's still in very early stages, but we are basically Ishel, who's in Ireland right now. We asked her to connect with people and get a group of people with whom we can form a steering committee and move this further. That's kind of where we are.
And I see Alex Kim has hand up, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Munwar, and thank you, David. So you asked a very good question, David. Is this OpenSSF thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what makes OpenSSF, thing is, I think, a question we want to answer too, right? If we do this under a work group, or is there validation needs to be approved by the working group, or when we were talking, yesterday, Mana and I, we definitely have to work with the tech, to get some inputs. And I think Michael's point of view was that if this happens, as a recurring event, right, it can make a good impact on the community from the user side. I know Alpha Omega has efforts too, but I think as someone who can just drop by into this virtual conference or virtual summit can learn a lot about what's going on in key projects that OpenSSF decide, right? This is the top 100 projects that very important to keep and to maintain the security of the code, right? Or the important part of the impact on other software vendors or other users, right? So that was the key message we wanted to deliver. And if we wanted to be part of OpenSSF event, what are the things that we need to do to make it happen, right? And we definitely need some help from Linux Foundation too.
Okay, I can give partial answers, and granted, the OpenSSF is still, they actually the TAC just accepted some change to try to formalize some things, because historically OpenSSF has been very informal. Originally we didn't have any funding, so we're trying to formalize. You can claim we're trying to build the plane while we're flying. But I think right now I think the way to get started is, if it's going to be an OpenSSF thing, generally OpenSSF things happen within working groups or projects and things created by those working groups. So you basically show up in a working group. Is there a general consensus by the working group? And it can be electronic or a meeting like this. And then that needs to go up to the TAC. Usually the working group lead brings it up to the TAC. Hey, is there any issue? Because the TAC is a little concerned about doing the same thing multiple times,
right?
Or even opposed to each other, which we don't want to do. Okay, and I think there's a desire to solve the problems, but not just let 1,000 flowers bloom. The CNCF has taken that approach and very effectively, but I think there's an expectation there's a little more limited. The problem is big. People don't want to spend as much on some of these security-related things, and therefore, while there's some funding, we want to be not 1,000 flowers bloom, but here is the flower for this particular area, and we're going to try to focus. We're going to do multiple things, but not do multiple things for the same result, if we can avoid that.
Okay.
So working group seem okay. Bring it to the TAC. Hey, is there an issue? Now, specific for a conference and such, the LFF, we've actually got a whole bunch. We actually have a whole event staff. Depending on the scale you want to do this. If you want to get just a couple people together, Zoom calls, they work. They're just fine.
Right.
Okay. If you want to get 1,000 people and have a webinar, that's a different scale. We can do that. We actually have a couple platforms we tend to use, depending on what you want to accomplish. So unsurprisingly, I'm going to come back and ask, well, what are you trying to accomplish? But we've got a couple different platforms that we can use depending on scale. But if you want to have a multi-1,000 person event, we run the CNCF events, so we can do that.
Yeah. Right.
The issue is if you want to do that, I would urge you before doing that, what are you trying to accomplish? Do you think that will get you there? Because that's obviously a big deal. Emily has noted something called meeting play. I am not an expert, by the way. Please don't. please don't look to me for the expert on running those. When somebody says they want to run an event, I try to run away and say, tell me when you want me to speak, because I've done that before. Oh my gosh, is that a lot of work?
It is a lot of work, yes.
I'm grateful for the folks who are willing to do that. So we've got some stuff. We just need to work it out. And I see Emily's hand up, so please correct me on the 1,000 things I've said wrong so far.
No, you're right. So I've started conferences within the Linux Foundation, and I currently co-chair one. There is a lot that goes into it. Understanding what the intent and what you want your attendees to get out of it after you identify who your attendees are is probably the most important, because that kind of drives the nature of the content that you'll be forming. I will also say, having run some unconference like events integrated with a primary event, a single day activity, unconference events or workshopping with audience and attendees can be beneficial, but you still need to introduce some structure for whatever your end goals that you're looking to get out of it. Based off of the thread that I saw in Slack and some of the subsequent discussions and conversations I've had with other community members in OpenSSF, it sounds like an initial perspective of looking to the maintainers and giving them a platform for expression about some of their challenges and difficulties, as well as providing awareness of what the OpenSSF is doing and how best to engage is a really good outcome. And working towards with those goals in mind would be beneficial. That being said, if you're talking about the top critical projects, if you were to strip that down to maybe like the top 50 that are the most important, they probably have more than one maintainer. You're looking easily at upwards of 100 attendees. So you'll need to figure out how to structure and provide opportunity for a lot of those discussions to happen and give them voice. So it could be in the form of, you can do CFP calls. You can also just do open forum communication where everybody gets on a webinar and you add everyone as a speaker. Heck, if you really wanted to take a crack at it, you probably do like Twitter Spaces or something like that to get folks to talk. I'm not recommending that because that'll be very confusing. But there's a lot of different opportunities there, but it'll always go back to, what are you looking to get out of it? Who are your attendees? What do you want that focus to be? And then from there, selection of platform is the next thing, and the events team will be there to help you. But generally speaking, it sounds like something that would be best suited as a colo event or an ongoing event to an existing conference such as OSS Summit. That would be a good opportunity. CNCF runs KubeCon, and they have a maintainers circle or a maintainers meetup where they cover a lot of those discussions, and that is as part of the main event.
Right. Thank you, Emily. I think you have a great insight. So it would be great if you can, join us on the next week on, just team discussions. One thing I wanted to point out is, I think Michael's idea is intended to be virtual summit where you don't have to travel and make it more flexible to people coming from overseas or other countries. So just wanted to point out that it intended to be a virtual summit.
Yep. Yes. And I think that'll be the most important, especially given where the maintainers are. So that is, as long as you can keep it virtual and make sure that there is good opportunity for everyone to speak in that platform, either through Slack or through audio in some space, that'll be beneficial. There's been a lot of really neat development by community maintainers on how do you give audio to a diverse virtual community all at once. There's been some really neat projects I've seen in the past that I can tell you about later, but lots of considerations, but going back and focusing on who the audience is and what you want to get out of it. Right.
That's the target point. And also, selecting criteria of what focus project we have a list of those target open source project, but what is the realistic, number to start with in the first set of, summit, and then move to the next one. What will be the next target of projects, right? Who decide those? That's something we have to discuss further, working with TAG and working with OpenSSF working groups, right?
Yeah, so this is kind of a point of order, but I just reposted the meeting notes. Emily, I tried to take notes on some. You had some great stuff, and I don't know that I got it right.
I can fill it in. I'll fill it in.
Thank you. So,
thank you.
In particular, you mentioned some numbers and multiplied some out, and I don't know if those are the numbers you actually said. So, yeah, but absolutely. And Emily, you were working with the LF events team for at least some of those?
Yeah, so as co-chair for KubeCon, I work with the LF events team. I've had excellent support staff when I was running Cloud Native SecurityCon as a colo event for KubeCon. Again, great support from the event staff. So just so you're situationally aware, anybody serving in a program committee function or a co-chair for those kinds of events, you're going to be doing a lot of work, and the events team will be relying on you to make a lot of the decisions around structure, organization, content platform, keynotes, anything like that. So the more information you can have together up front when you go to have those conversations with them, the better informed they're going to be.
That's great insight. By the way, are you coming to KubeCon next month?
As co-chair, I will be standing on the main stage in Detroit. Yes.
All right. I hope I can see you there.
as someone who does my darndest to not do some of those crazy things, thank you for being willing to do that, because in my short experience of doing this, I said, oh my gosh, that's a lot of work. So thank you.
It's a good learning opportunity, and I would encourage anybody that's interested in learning more about a particular technology or ecosystem to serve as a program committee member, either reviewing CFPs or just helping out with the coordination. It's an incredibly valuable experience.
Definitely want to introduce some of our team to you, Emily.
I've served on a number of program committees, but some of the things that Emily's talking about, I'm going, oh, I'm so grateful for people like you willing to stand up. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else on this topic? Okay, seeing none. Are there any issues we want to raise before we close up this meeting today? Okay, I see nothing. So why don't we say, give you back 15 minutes. Thank you, everybody. We can, make some last minute tweaks. I see Emily is trying to fix all my mistakes, so thank you.
Hey, David, something different topic. I know you're speaking at OMP Summit next week in Philly. You're going to be in person?
I'm going to be in person. I got to work out. I still haven't done the hotel, so I better get my button gear on that. So
okay, I'll see you there next week.
Okay, fantastic. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Thank you.